Hi everybody, good morning, welcome to my YouTube channel. And today I'm gonna be doing a short review about my KTM RC390, and I've been using this bike for almost a year now. I mean more than a year now, exactly more than a year. So I'm just gonna be giving you some, tips on buying this bike in case if you are planning to buy one. So if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. So my bike, this motorcycle is a 2017 KTM RC390. And I got this exactly a year before. So there are a lot of positives and negatives, advantages and disadvantages of this bike. I would be explaining you all one by one as we go forward. Guys who would be planning to buy this bike for the sake of looks, and some for the sake of performance, and some for the brand KTM, or there might be many reasons for someone to pick up this bike as their choice. I mean, everybody would know, they would have seen on paper and the websites about the specification of the bike. It's a 373cc single cylinder motor, and it's got around 42 or 43 horsepower back to the wheel, and it's got like 35 or 36 newton meters. I'm not sure about those specifications. Yes, it's a single cylinder motor, and it's a 373cc, and it's a good power coming to this price point. This motorcycle can do 0 to 100 in around 5 seconds, or maybe 5.5 seconds, but I personally would say that this can do around 5 seconds. Yes, 0 to 100. And the top speed of this bike is around 180 kilometers an hour. I've personally done around 175, something like that. Yes, it has a decent top speed, and it has a good acceleration, and this is a completely track focused bike. The reason I say that is because of the fact that this has very stiffer side of a suspension setup. This bike is very stiff, and it's got 43mm upside down forks, and the tires are the 150/60 on the rear, and it's around 110 section on the front. Both are 17 inches, and it's got a dual channel ABS, so you're very good on the tracks while you have a good brake, right? This bike does pretty much good job on the braking section, and the acceleration of this bike is pretty good, and it's very drivable on the road when you want to drive this bike a little crazy, but when it comes to the handling, this bike is a very good handler. When it comes to the braking or acceleration, or taking a curve, or it's pretty good handler. For almost riding a year now, I've done like around 17,200 kilometers on this motorcycle, and most of that is on the highways. I mean, I didn't get this bike mostly for the touring purpose, but still I am using this bike for a lot of touring purpose. I've done a lot of touring on this bike, complete South India. I mean, I would say a lot of places to South India. I've even taken this bike to Goa from Bangalore, and this bike has, you know, never disappointed you at any time. So these comes with kind of a track focused tires. I would say that's the M5 Metzeler's. They are very sticky and they provide you a very good grip, and so that adds up to the handling perception of this bike. I mean, you will be able to use all of the power on this bike because it's just like 375cc. It's a mini super sport bike. When you buy a bigger bike, you will not be able to use the complete power range, the complete power band on our Indian roads. But when you have a smaller bike, and you will be able to use a complete power band, you know what I mean, you will be able to redline this bike all the time. You will be able to do it all the time, except for the taller gears. I mean, the fifth or the sixth gear, you will not be able to do a red line in case if you are planning to. But rest all the gears, you know, you will be able to red line in our Indian roads. So, you know, basically this bike looks very, you know, like aggressive, and the paint job on this bike is really good. Apart from, you know, the plastic parts, the build quality, I would say it's not up to the mark, because, you know, I don't want to comment about it, but still, you know, the build quality is not up to the mark. You know, there are a lot of fairing vibrations, and some of the parts feels little cheap. You know, I've driven Yamaha R15 and some of the bikes, Kawasaki Ninja 300. I can pretty much point out difference in the quality of the plastics that's been used on this bike. Yes, the plastic is kind of a little on the cheaper side, but still it does the job. Even though you get fair vibrations on the bike completely when you drive it. But, you know, obviously it's a single cylinder motorcycle, and it's a large capacity, I would say about 350cc. So when you have a large single cylinder motor, obviously it's gonna vibrate a lot, and this is not an exception for that. It vibrates a lot when you drive it hard, but, you know, you don't care about when you're driving hard, because all you want is the performance of the motorcycle. That is what you want, right? So you don't care about the vibrations or whatever that comes. This bike has a very good mid-range of power. I mean, you know, like what I say is, when the RPM is about 5,000, when the engine is spinning about 5,000 RPM, so you would get the power exactly after 5,000 to 6,000 RPM, and it goes all the way until like 9,000 RPM, and then 9,500 I would say, and then the red limiter kicks in. A super sport kind of a motorcycle, you know, they will be all designed to have the power band on the higher side of the RPM range, right? So the power would be delivered after 8,000 until 12,000 or 13,000 RPM. But this bike is not that kind of bike. This has all the power on the mid-range. This is a mid-range bike, I would say. Which is like kind of a street, which is kind of a, you know, like a roadster bikes that would have the power in the mid-range of the RPM band. So that is how the engine is made, and The gear ratios are okay when it's put to the city driving, and the first, second, third and fourth gears, I would say they are like little shorter, and after, you know, like the fifth and sixth gear are really tall. They're very tall, so you will not be able to do higher gears on low speeds on this bike. You would find the engine and the gearbox would be kicking. And talking about the gearbox is it's a pretty good gearbox that I've driven. You know, the shifts are very precise and very clean, and you know, it's kind of a butter smooth gearbox, I would say. So you will be able to downshifts without even considering the RPM. You can be going like a speed of 100 kilometers an hour, and you can suddenly put on the second gear right from, you know, you will be able to downshift without any issues because of the you know, the slipper clutch. The slipper clutch is one of the great advantages when you drive the bike on the track. It helps you you know, carve through the corners, even, you know, thinking about the rear wheel getting locked because of the downshift. So when you drive this bike through the city, there's a lot of heat produced on this bike. You will not be able to you know, drive this bike through stop and go traffic, you know, because it's kind of, you would feel really uncomfortable driving this bike in a traffic situation. There's a lot of heat produced, and when the radiator, I mean, it does a pretty good job. It brings down the heat of the engine pretty good, but still, you know, there's a lot of airflow that comes to your knees and your leg, which makes it very hot to drive during the traffic conditions. But on the highways you don't feel anything. You're getting good wind on the bike, so the engine doesn't get heat up pretty much. So yeah, so that's about the engine and the performance of the bike. When I was planning to buy a motorcycle, I was thinking about buying a super bike, kind of a bigger one, like at least a 600cc, and I was definitely planning for a 3-cylinder or a 4-cylinder. I definitely didn't want to go with a single or a twin or inline 2, because, you know, I wanted a bigger bike. And then later I was thinking about a lot of facts that comes to driving in the Indian road conditions. And our roads are not good, and we have a lot of pollution, and, you know, maintenance of the bike, super bikes, will be really difficult in India. So then I started thinking about the lightweight super sport kind of category, you know, the entry level category of the super sport. That's the 300cc category. So I was thinking about Yamaha R3, I was thinking about Kawasaki Ninja, and then the KTM RC390. The purpose of me getting the bike is now basically drive faster a little bit, and I should have the looks. Obviously, you know, the looks of the bike definitely matters. So I was taking all those into the consideration, and later I had a lot of test drives. I took test drives for the RC390, I took test drive for the Ninja, and then I took the test drive for the R3, and I felt like this bike was pretty, you know, kind of a brutal acceleration, and this bike had really good acceleration, good handling, and good feel. You know, when you sit on a Ninja, you just sit here, and the same goes to R3. The R3 and the Ninja doesn't have that much of a committed driving position, but this one is completely committed. When you sit on the bike, it just completely feels like a track bike. I mean, it's completely focused on like a track, but still, you know, the driving position is the best thing that I liked about this bike. It was very good, and the acceleration, that's another thing which I loved. The Yamaha R3 and the Ninja are both two-cylinder engines. I mean, the inline twos, they were like very smooth and they had power on the top end. But when it came to the price point, you know, both of the bikes were like almost more than like 2 lakhs above this bike. I mean, who would want to spend around 5 lakhs for a 300cc category motorcycle in India? I mean, if you spend another a lakh or two, you would be able to get your hands on the Benelli 600 or something, you know, a 600cc category range. So I don't want to spend that much on a 300cc. I thought maybe I'll buy a small bike and later then I'll plan for inline 4 later class motorcycle. So I got this bike and I got it delivered on the month of June last year, 2017, and this bike impressed me a lot. So this is how the motorcycle looks. It is kind of little dirty, and because I haven't cleaned it quite for some time and it's been raining, and it looks pretty gay. It looks pretty great, right? I mean, the front is very, you know, kind of a anger position bike. You know, the front looks quite aggressive, and the rear seats, they are kind of an integrated cowl, and yeah, the looks of the bike is pretty great. And I've changed the rear tire from 150 to 160. That's a Metzeler M7RR version. That's top in spec of the Metzeler. And I still haven't changed the front tires. The front tires are okay. I mean, still it's got a lot of rubber, so it can take another 3,000 kilometers or something. Yeah, so this is about the looks. The rear view mirrors looks pretty good. I mean, it does the job pretty good. And yeah, the handlebars are wide and like completely committed. It's got a dual channel ABS brake, so it can do a pretty good braking. You know, when it comes to the braking department, it does a pretty great job. It has very good bite and feedback. So let me try to do another test. as I said, you know, that's the best thing. You know, you got very good acceleration and very good brakes, and this bike can do much higher speeds, but the roads are not that good, and Indian roads are not good to be driving more than 150 kilometers an hour. That too, that's 150 is like very, you know, the 150 kilometers is too much for Indian roads. I would say 100 to 120, that's a good thing, and sometimes 140, you know, when you don't have anyone on the road, that's okay. So that's when you can do the speeds, but this bike can do that pretty good. Even if you want to do a drag or something, but no one's going to be doing a drag race all the time, right? So you don't need those drag spec kind of thing. You know, you don't want to too much think about how much this bike would go from 0 to 100 or 0 to 150. You know, you don't have to be like thinking too much about those things. This bike has very good power for the price point, and it's very usable. You will be able to rip this bike completely. The engine is pretty solid, so you can, you know, this bike will be happy to drive only if you drive like crazy, you know what I mean. You just have to pin down the throttle to enjoy this bike performance. And when it comes to the service, you know, this bike has gone through 5 services for this one particular year, and almost an average of 3,000 rupees per service, because, you know, after second service or third service you might have to change some parts like the oil filter, the air filter, and there are some things, you know, which would definitely cost. I mean, it's a regular thing for all the motorcycles that you would need to do. So if you're planning to buy a super sport category kind of a motorcycle, and which is within the price point of like 3 lakhs, yes, this bike is a best choice. It's got the style, it's got the aggression, it's got a very good engine, and it's got very good brakes. You get all this to a price point of 3 lakhs, so it's a pretty good deal. And the looks of the bike definitely is pretty great. The mileage of the bike, this gives around 20 in the city. I would say 15 to 20 in the city if you don't have that much of traffic, but when it comes to Bangalore you would expect around 15, you know, because there is a lot of traffic in Bangalore. But on the highways it gives you, you just maintain a speed of 100 kilometers an hour, and it gives you a mileage of around 25 to 30, depends upon your driving conditions, I would say. I mean, if you rip this bike hard and drive it, it would definitely not give you that much of good mileage. But if you're going to be like using it pretty okay, it should be returning around 25 to 30 on the highways. And yep, so but you don't want to buy this bike for driving like smooth and, you know, slow and smooth. You would go for a unicorn or a Splendor for that purpose. So this bike is meant for driving crazy, so we don't want to be talking about the mileage part. And the spare parts for this bike is okay-ish. You know, they are not too costly and they are not too cheap, so you will have to afford it. And by the way, if you had noticed the gloves, I've got this new leather Alpine Stars. It's a Mustang gloves. It's really good for cold weather conditions like here in Bangalore. It's around 20 degrees right now, and it's pretty cold when you drive fast. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it. So please subscribe to the channel in case if you want to have more updates and more videos in travel and motorcycle informations. I would be doing a lot of videos every week. So if you have your concerns or if you have your own comments, please drop down below in the comment section. So thank you for watching. Have a great riding.